Green Arrow number 14, written by Ann Nocenti, art by Freddie Williams II. This is the next part of Hawkman Wanted, a tie-in with Hawkman and ostensibly Deathstroke. So last issue we had Oliver Queen coming back from China in order to get his company back. It was a whole thing. And then he came across Hawkman being chased by other Hawk people, and it's like, what's happening here? So Hawkman is, of course, being chased because he is wanted for the murder of the Emperor of Thanagar, his kind of brother-in-law. Check out Hawkman 13, but this issue, Green Arrow jumps in because they see that Hawkman is holding his girlfriend, Emma, and just like, oh, there's a human in the mix, and it looks like it's 3-on-1, so I'm going to root for the underdog. That's what my gut says. So he jumps into the mix, throws out an arrow that causes like a million little barbed spikes to attach themselves to the other Thanagarians, and they all get electrified because of it. And Green Arrow takes a second and it's just like, hey, did you actually commit murder? And he's like, no, I'm innocent. And he's like, well, that's what a guilty person would say. So how can I trust you? And he's just like, I don't know. Just trust me, we have no choice here. So he's like, look, I'm going to take the girl. I'm going to get her up onto my jet, and then we can fight these things together because you're kind of bogged down with her right now. So Hawkman's like, no, I don't want to leave her. And Emma's like, I'll literally be right over there. Just let me go. So the other Thanagarians show up before she's able to make it the whole way up, but she is still holding her own with her own little battle axe. And it's just an extended fight scene where the narrator, who I don't think is literally either of them, is just saying like, hey, this is war. This is truly what a soldier feels, and blah, blah, blah. So Arrow gets a call from the flyer of the jet saying like, hey, we're getting the war room ready back home. If you can get a sample of their armor, then we can find something to take them down. And he's like, all right, cool, we'll do. But before they can do any of that, Thanagarians just fly up into the sky away. And he's like, cool, they're leaving. And Hawkman's like, no, I'm not sure how I know this, but they're getting ready for a dive bomb. And again, not sure how I know this, but it will tear us limb from limb with the speeds and the power they can get. And of course, they are dive bombing. So Green Arrow ends up dropping like a whole quiver full of arrows. The one he does manage to get is a net arrow, which he fires across to Hawkman. They extend the net, and all the Hawk people fall into it, and once again get electrified. The guy flying the jet, I think his name's Jimmy. If not, I'm calling him Jimmy. He's firing a pistol trying to defend Emma, who's like dangling out from the plane. Thanagarian cuts her line. Hawkman gets knocked, like bumped by the jet, so he's basically falling out of the air as well. But Green Arrow does manage to catch Emma before it's too late. Or no, sorry. The Thanagarians catch her and take her away. And Green Arrow's like, it's too late, Hawkman. They're gone. So then he starts just collapsing down into the sea. And he's like, dude, you are literally too exhausted to function. We need to take you somewhere to like calm down. And he's like, I gotta fight. They took Emma. He's like, okay, well, we're still going to do that. So they take him to the war room, which at this point is just like an abandoned warehouse that I guess is whatever, because as it turns out, all that thing with getting his company and his money back, turns out that the Chinese government just blocked it from happening. So he's still not rich. So they're stuck here. Green Arrow talks to Hawkman about all this stuff going on with him, and he's just like, oh, I'm not a murderer. They just want me for my nth metal armor. And he's like, dude, I don't really care, but you're in my city, and I don't want to caught in the middle of a intergalactic war. And Hawkman's like, fair enough. And then he's like, but I have to go find Emma. And Green Arrow's like, why do you care so much about her? And he's like, you don't care about someone more than you do yourself? And he's like, no, I can't afford to. We're all so gritty and no hope of finding love. So anyway, his tech guy, Jax, comes up with a drone beetle thing where it's an acid that corrodes pretty much anything it touches, but he does it in the form of two different chemicals that when they touch will become an acid, so that way, it doesn't corrode whatever is holding it. And they're like, okay, cool. And then Jack says, you know, this really would work better, Green Arrow, if you could fly. What about that glider arrow from like forever ago? And he's like, that thing's a toy. I'm not going to use that. And he's like, well, you're going to have to try. So he hops onto his glider arrow and starts gliding through Seattle. He's like, boy, I sure do love this city. And then he gets a call from Susie Ming from last arc. And he's like, hey, what's up with my stocks or whatever? And he's like, oh, yeah, no, they left China. They're somewhere in Seattle, which I don't think she understands how a digital transfer of stocks doesn't just end up somewhere in Seattle, but regardless, whatever. Um, so, yeah, at that point, they just talk philosophically for like a second about I genuinely don't know what. And Oliver lands and turns out of his Green Arrow gear and walks to a bar to talk to Emerson, the guy who ran his company into the ground. And it's just like, hey, Emerson, you ran my company in the ground. And Emerson's like, psh, you did that yourself. You literally were never around the whole time. He's like, dude, you took over the company after I left for a few weeks. The hell is wrong with you? And he's like, well, maybe you'll see one day, Oliver, that it is all your fault. And he's like, all right, whatever, bye. So anyway, fight scene kicks off. They move up the coast to try to find the Hawk people. They manage to come across them at a bonfire, and they just, from above, start raining down this acid, which corrodes their armor and like keeps them stuck in place. But one of them was out on patrol. He comes back and he's like, my men, what have you done? And he's like, we didn't kill them. They're literally just right there. And he's like, this is a war crime. And it's like, you literally have stolen an innocent civilian. That's more of a war crime. And he's just like, psh, whatever. So at that point, Hawkman throttles the guy, saying like, give me the location of your queen. And he's like, I will not betray her. He's like, yeah, you will. And he's like, yeah, I will. So he gets the location. They make their way deeper into the city. And Green Arrow's like, all right, you're sure this woman can end the conflict? And he's like, yeah, she's literally the cause for it. And Green Arrow's like, all right, I'll trust you this time, Hawkman, but you're still not good in my book. Got it? And he's like, yeah, sure, let's do it. So that's where we leave off. Next issue is Deathstroke. I can see a few ways we could get into Deathstroke here. We'll see which one of them happens, but I didn't expect this to be so tightly knit of a Green Arrow Hawkman thing. I thought it would just be Green Arrow helps him out and then just dips by the end of the issue, but hey, whatever. Dialogue was really painful, and nothing against Freddie Williams' art because I did enjoy it in Captain Atom, but it doesn't really fit the street hero vibe that Green Arrow has. This is very strange looking, I guess I would say, in a lot of panels. It's more sci-fi than it is this, and the colorist is not doing any great favors either. It's not playing into the weirdness of it. It's played very straight. So sometimes you'll get like some, I don't know, just some weirdness from more zoomed out shots. Overall, I think this is like a 5.5. It's okay, but like this event so far is nothing save for an excuse to cross over into a couple different series that probably weren't selling so well. So overall, meh in general, but hey, we'll see how Deathstroke managed to turn it out because that's been doing so much better. That was sarcasm.